What would you consider to be your first sort of big break?
Hey guys, this is Tempest from Wrestle Talk, and I'm reminding you to support Tom Talks Rubbish.
Of course.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talks Rubbish, and stand back with another interview. This time, I'm joined by Samaria, a freelance pro wrestling broadcaster. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
So if we take this back to the beginning, before any of your work in the wrestling media, where do you first discover wrestling?
So actually, like, my family was pretty into it. My uncle specifically, like my grandfather, when, he was alive, would come home from work on Saturdays and, watch it. So then my uncle in turn started watching it, and he's still watched it all of his life. So when I was like 6 or 7 years old, I started watching while like he was watching, and I thought, oh, I'd fall out of it, and I never like did, which I'm really happy about. My brother fell out of it though, but I'm the one that's like now like the wrestling obsessed in the family.
Fair enough. What sort of era are we talking about that you first discovered?
Oh, Randy Orton, John Cena feud era, and I love that feud so much because I grew up with that. So that's why like, Randy's like my favorite.
Totally. I fully agree with you on that one because I grew up around a similar era to you, and I feel like everyone sleeps on that feud. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's like one of my favorite rivalries because like the history they have together, like they were in OVW together and they came up together, and like I love their feuds.
Fair enough. So have you had like a drop-off period where you've maybe cut wrestling out, not through your own choice, even through like where life got in the way or something?
Maybe like it could have been briefly like in middle school for a little bit, and I wouldn't say I cut off of wrestling in the past couple of months. I think it was just me. Life was a little going on, especially like in the past couple of years. Life's been a little bit crazy. Who hasn't? Life is a little crazy, but I would say like maybe the past month and a half too, I was going through like imposter syndrome, which I've like touched on. But I've been doing like much better in like getting out there, but I was still following wrestling. It was just like, the doubts and stuff, but I've been doing better.
That's really nice to hear. Fair enough. So like, but what is an era that you have watched that maybe looking back, you're like, why didn't I cut this out of my life at this point?
Oh my God, I don't know. For a specific WWE era that took cut out, oh God. I don't know. I think it was like after the whole SmackDown, but I really like that era too. It's hard to pinpoint because I loved SmackDown once they did the brand split. And then I think like shortly after, like, I forget what era this is, maybe like not 2018, maybe around 2019, things were just a little, I don't know. I was just not like feeling it, but I've been feeling it now again. Like they're doing a really good job with like everything. But I think like, I don't know, some of like the newer stuff, I was like, I was like, I don't know if I like feel into this.
So what wrestling are you currently into? Like, what are you currently watching? What do you maybe have to watch for work?
I watched basically everything because I love wrestling and I'm like really into everything, but I love AEW. They have such a great product. Oh my God. A bunch of like independent promotions, obviously GCW, they're doing really, really good. Impact, NWA, WWE. Like I try to watch everything when I can because it's all so good and I love to see and keep up with what everybody's doing.
Fair enough. So as we move on to your sort of career, you started in the wrestling media in 2018, correct?
Yes.
So how does that come about? What was the first site that maybe gave you a chance? Where did you first pop up in the wrestling media, basically?
So it's kind of funny because like I was in community college at the time and I was trying to decide between two majors, which was communications and teaching. And at the time I had been doing stuff on my own YouTube channel, just like talking about wrestling and stuff like that. So when I worked for Wrestling News Code, this is like before I worked for them, but I forget what I saw of theirs, and like I reached out about something, and then they're like, "Hey, we're kind of like looking for an interviewer. Like somebody to run the channel. Like, would you be interested? Like, we'll do like a trial interview with you." I was like, "Yeah, like that sounds pretty cool." So, my first like ever interview was like a phone call audio interview with Barbie Blank, aka Kelly Kelly, and that's like insane because like I grew up watching her, and I was like, "Oh my god, like I'm doing an interview with her, and this is my trial interview." I did the interview. They liked what they saw, and I was working for them in 2018, and then I was working with them from 2021 to like about 2022. Don't work with them now, but we did some great things together, and I really liked working for them, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun doing a bunch of interviews and going places.
How was it made possibly easier or harder with your trial interview being a phone conversation rather than a Skype call or an in-person conversation?
I think with the phone call, it's like you got to make sure like your screen recording or whatever was working. And I know the first time that we did it, it cut out some of it, so we had to redo the audio interview. I'm not sure why we did not do a video interview at the time. I cannot remember why, but like the audio was definitely like you had to sit there and like you can't exactly see their facial features or anything, and you're just like sitting there listening, which is fine. And then you're just like listening, making sure everything's still working correctly, everything's still like recording, and you're just sitting and like talking. And I don't know, but it's easy, but it's nice to have like a video interview, I would say, because I feel like more people enjoy like watching people.
Yeah, definitely. So as a freelancer now, what is like your process for getting gigs or work? Do you reach out to people or do you have people reaching out to you?
So it depends on what you're doing. Like for podcasts, let's say sometimes people reach out to you, "Hey, you want to come on the show?" Yeah, sure. Like I love podcasts. Or I'll maybe reach out to them. You sometimes like, "Hey, like do you want to have a guest on or something?" But usually people reach out. As for like interview wise or getting booked wise, interviews I tend to reach out to the talent. Maybe if it's at a show, like if we want to do something in person, I always make sure with like whoever's the promoter or running the show, like, "Hey, is it okay if I come and interview so and so at your show?" Making sure like both parties are like okay with what's going on. Or if it's bookings, sometimes they'll reach out to you, but usually you got to go through the process of like asking them as well. Be like, "Hey, if you're looking," like you show them your reel or whatever you might have, or you go to help out, because obviously they always need help.
If someone hasn't got a reel, as you say, or like another word for that would be a sample of work, how can they take or maybe get an interview without someone reaching out and taking a chance on them first?
Well, I mean, you don't have to have a reel, but I like for me, I made out a reel like to show like everything that I've so far done into like a little clip so they can get like a taste of the work. Or if not, like if you have a channel or something and you have a playlist of your interviews, so maybe if they want to go and click on to see like what also you have done, so there's like multiple. Or like sometimes you just have to reach out to these people and be like, "Hey, this is what I've done, like this is who I am, this is what I do, here's a sample of my work, like I'd love to work together." And if they say no, they say no, it's not the end of the world. Or if they don't answer, I mean, that happens sometimes you're not going to hear
I
anything.
found that as an interviewer, people just for some reason they just ignore you, which is very strange.
Yeah, sometimes they say no, or sometimes they do ignore you, but it's that's just like how it is. And that's like when you're doing this, you learn like, hey, like they're not going to always answer, and that's okay, because no matter how many no's, there's always going to be yeses, and there's always going to come up great things. You just never know when.
What would you consider to be your first sort of big break in the wrestling media?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I feel like when I did my first rounds of interviews in person, I feel like even though I interviewed big names, I feel like I didn't get like a big break, sort of say. Like I was still really new and nobody really knew of me. I don't think it was until like up until last year when I started to do so much more that people started to be like, oh, you know, this girl like is here doing this, this, and this. Like I think it's when I started to do interviews back on my channel again, and then I partnered up with a different wrestling website, and then more people were getting aware of like, oh, this is a girl, like this is Samira. And I think it's when I started doing that last year in the summer.
What wrestling website are you currently partnered with then?
I am not currently partnered with any wrestling websites at the moment. I'm like solely focusing on my channel at the moment, and I'm working independence. I feel like that's, you know, what I'm doing. Like I know everybody's been seeing me on Fightful, but we're just, you know, collabing and stuff at the moment. Yeah, we're just like collabing. It's been nice. They're all like great people over there. I love them all.
Everyone that I've interviewed from Fightful are just lovely people. I will say
they're very lovely. So yeah, I'm just solely doing like kind of my own thing, trying to get my channel back to what it was, doing interviews there and taking more independent bookings, as I love doing, you know, backstage correspondence of like interviews. I love doing that, ringside, social media, whatever it might be. I love like working on the independents.
What are some of the biggest things you've noticed from working on the independents that you now use in your YouTube work?
I think it's definitely the acting, like when they're playing their character and you have to act along with it. And I try my best, like, you know, to play the role, like get into like a character and be like, okay, I gotta really like get this. You can't like laugh. You can't like, you gotta be really serious with it. And I try my best. I feel like I need to take a little bit of an acting class, but I that's like when you bring it there, because I've also done it over Zoom before when I've done like online interviews as well. Like some of them, they're still playing their character as I ask them the questions, and you have to like react to it, like, you know, as like the character.
Mm-hmm. So what are some things that maybe you've taken from your YouTube journey onto the independent?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, definitely. Well, it's always like 100%. You always got to make sure the person that you're interviewing is comfortable. You check in with them, maybe bounce. Well, I wouldn't say bounce ideas with them, because that's more of an independence thing. Like you can't really bounce off questions with the person you're interviewing. I don't know, making sure they're comfortable, and, you know, you still have to have that like on-air presence, like as you do here online. You have to have it there. Like you have to make sure you look good, and you're like the whole thing, how you're standing or sitting, like is the lighting good? Like you got to make sure everything is basically in place. So it's kind of like that kind of went over too.
What is a piece of advice that you would currently give to someone that wants to start a YouTube channel as an interviewer, but is maybe thinking, okay, I'm not good enough, or I don't have that portfolio yet to reach out to people?
Well, like just start anywhere. You can start by just emailing somebody. It doesn't, like I said before, it doesn't matter how many no's, there's always going to be a yes. So you'll always start somewhere, or start somewhere with like somebody you're comfortable with talking. Maybe like it's another fan or a personality. Just like start interviewing them first and talk. I know when Ella J of a Wrestling Gal podcast, when she started her podcast, she brought me on first. I was the first episode, and that's how she like then, you know, we went with somebody that's comfortable. And I feel like I did that in the beginning of my career, like when I did like in-person interviews. Like if I already knew somebody, I went to them first to go talk to them, and then I felt like better as I kept going up and up and up. So it's just like, just don't let anything stop you from following your dreams. Because the only person, I feel like, I always say this because I know myself, I've been through this, like the only person that's stopping you is you. And if you really want to follow your dreams, you got to make it happen, and it will happen. And you'll feel so happy, because I know I feel happy when I do all the wrestling, and you just got to start. And I've seen so many people like that. I know they're just like doing a bunch of wrestling content now, and they're like very happy. And I'm like, you just have to start. And as soon as you start, there you go.
Do you think the wrestling media market almost is oversaturated in some ways? I hope that question made sense, by the way. That was very wordy.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, there is a lot of us, but that's like also the same when you talk about media for everything else. There's so many people, but like that's like kind of the typical thing. I mean, everybody's out there killing it. It's just that you got to work really hard to get where you want to go and do what you want to do at the end of the day.
What can someone do to stand out as a interviewer or a personality in the wrestling media, do you think?
I don't know. I think it's important to just like be yourself or do whatever, you know. Obviously you want people to be comfortable with you, and how do I like I'm like trying to figure out how to word this, but you want them to be comfortable with you, and I would say be yourself, because like that's the best thing, and you want to have fun with it. I think maybe that's the best way to put it.
I know what you mean. If you're comfortable talking about this, I would really like to discuss for a few minutes imposter syndrome and how like other people can overcome it with your experiences. Okay.
Yeah, I'm comfortable talking about that.
So like, what do you view imposter syndrome as in your own words then?
I view imposter syndrome as like doubting one's abilities, or thinking like you doubt your abilities and what you do, or like I know because I've had that, like you doubt yourself or thinking you could have done better, or somebody else could have had it in the place of you, like because you didn't feel good enough for what you did.
Mm-hmm. So then like what have you now put in place to not avoid imposter syndrome, but yeah, avoid might be the right word. But what have you put in place to stop or avoid it?
So I like reached out to a lot of friends in the wrestling media community. Because I felt alone when I felt this way. I had been feeling it for a while, and I was just like, why am I so sad like about this? Like, you know, how do you guys get through it? And they gave me social media for a little bit if they feel some type of way, or like there was a lot of advice that I took from a lot of people. I know one of my friends, as soon as I told them, I sent them this audio message of like, you know, how I was feeling. They called me straight away on the phone with me for an hour, just like talking, like giving me advice. Like we just went through everything, and it was like, it was the best conversation I had. And I'm going to shout this person out. This is Emilio Sparks, who just like,
shout out to him. What a guy. By the way.
He is one of the nicest people ever. And as soon as like I told him, he called me straight away and just like really helped me through it. Like I talked about everything I was feeling with him, and he was there for me. And there was so many people there for me, but it was nice for Emilio. Like I wasn't expecting that, for him to call me, and we just like talked about everything. And I felt like at that point, I was like, okay, I need to stop, like, you know, doing this. Like, I'm stopping myself and having these thoughts and doubts. Of course, I'm going to always have them, but this is what's stopping me from, you know, continuing on my career and my journey. And as soon as we done, I was like, okay, I'm ready to kick this thing in the butt. And then I just went with it. And ever since that conversation, I feel like I've been doing better. And I'm like, okay, interview things I want to do, and I'm like, that's it, I'm gonna like keep going. I felt like I'm just ready to push forward. I feel really good.
Fair enough, and that's really nice to hear. So what are 5 things that you want to maybe accomplish by the end of 2022?
Oh my gosh,
we ask the hard questions here at Tom Talks Rubbish, by the way.
Oh my god, I have not put in any thought into this, but I think, all right, the first one, I think I want to accomplish working with more promotions, and like, because obviously my home is Camp Leapfrog and High Tension Wrestling, so I'd like to like continue to work with other promotions to be like maybe an interviewer, whatever they might be looking for. So I hope, you know, by the end of 2022, I'll work with more. Second one would be I think get my YouTube channel up to 1,000 subscribers. I'm pretty sure we're at 830 something or 840. So I think once I revamp up my channel and keep going, I think I could get there, hopefully.
I'm hoping to hit 1,000 by the end of the year. So make sure you subscribe to Conflict Flourish and subscribe to Samara's channel, which is...
It's Samira.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's okay. It's literally, when I came up with that, I was just like, I'll just put it's Samira. That sounds fine.
Fair enough.
A third one would be to try and work with a bigger promotion, whether it's NWA or MLW. Like, try something. Hopefully that will work. I really like their products. Fourth, I don't know if it will be possible, but a dream interviewee. I would love to interview one of my dream interviewees. Don't know if it'll happen by the end of 2022, but hey, you never know. And the fifth, I don't know.
Maybe 5 was a bit hard. I do apologize.
It's okay. I think but it helps you think of like what you want to accomplish. And I really like that because I never thought about what do I actually want to do by the end of the year. I don't know. I think the fifth is just to, I guess, meet more of my friends in wrestling because I've met a lot of them, but I would like to like continue to meet more and like, you know, be with them and make collabs with them because I know like, oh my god, at Dallas, like I've seen a lot and they were in my video for vlogs. Like I love that. Like we have so much fun and I'd love to have more like kind of sit down type of collabs with like, you know, people in the wrestling media or stuff like that. I feel like that would be a lot of fun.
A sixth one for you sounds like something that's very similar to me, which is you just want to continue having fun with your content. Like that's what it sounds like from what you're saying.
Oh, I have like so much fun with my content and like sitting with people and like just talking to them because I just love that, whether it's friends or, you know, knowing the talent, because I love sitting with them and getting to hear about themselves besides their character. So it's just so much fun.
Fair enough. As we look at wrapping this up, because I do want to be respectful of your time, we're going to go into a segment now that I call generic questions. Those of you that have seen my videos before will know this is where I ask my guests their favorite match, favorite pay-per-view, favorite superstar, favorite tag team, and favorite theme song of all time. Basically, this is where Samara will now have a place to go, look, I've answered all these questions, and you can check this video out here. So what's your favorite match of all time?
Oh my gosh. All right. My favorite match of all time, Randy Orton and Mankind. Oh my god, I'm forgetting the
Backlash 2004.
Yes. Oh, that was that's my favorite match. I love that match. It was so good.
Not to be a nitpick, but it wasn't Mankind. It was Mick Foley.
I mean, I'm sorry. I came from work. I'm so tired. I met Mick Foley.
I appreciate you doing this, and my slight. Because I do suffer from slight autism, I'll admit that. So my brain is a bit like, wait, that's not right. I've got to call her out on this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're all good. Don't worry about it. I was like, oh my god. I was like, is it? I was like, wasn't Maker? I couldn't think for a second. I was like, oh geez. And now I'm gonna get roasted in the video.
No worries. Favorite pay-per-view of all time. And this can be an event you were at live, by the way.
Oh, okay. For an event I was not at live. It's WrestleMania 31. I really enjoyed that. It was so good. Something that was live. Oh, maybe AEW's Revolution this past year. I had a lot of fun there, but I also enjoyed WrestleMania's Night 1 this year with like Cody Rhodes and Bianca. The Night 1 was really something, especially then with Stone Cold. So I think I'm between those.
Fair enough. Favorite tag team of all time?
Evolution or NWO?
Fair enough. Favorite theme song of all time?
Okay, now this is the hard question. Oh my god, there's so many good ones. Oh my god, oh my gosh, this is hard.
As an interviewer, should I prep people on these questions before I ask them? Like, should I send them over before we do the interview, do you reckon?
I mean, I personally don't do it unless like a major wrestling promotion, or maybe if a wrestler asks you. I mean, I don't, but like I would ask them like, oh, what are you comfortable talking about, or what are you not comfortable talking about, so then you won't like bring it up.
Yeah,
That's what I usually do.
I
Oh my god.
understand that, but like for the generic questions, because it does tend to stump a lot of people. Do you think I should send them over to even smaller people nearer before the interview? Should I say?
I don't know. I like the element of surprise because I was like, ooh, I was like, I like this because it makes me really think, because I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, like, whatever you feel usually, if you think you should.
I don't know. It's just it's been stumping a lot of people lately, and then there's been a lot.
It gets them really thinking, and I like that.
Not what I want to call dead air, but you know what I'm trying to say, don't you? Like,
yeah, like you're like, because you're like, oh, and then you have to cut that part out when you're editing.
Yeah, exactly. So, what's your favorite theme song of all time? Now that you've had a little while to think.
Oh my god. Okay. Oh, all right. I think it's. This is so difficult. I think it has to be maybe Randy Orton's first theme song.
Burning My Life.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think.
That's the one he had in Evolution. So
yeah, I have such a hard time picking theme songs because they've all been so good over the years. So it's hard to pick like the favorite out of everything.
And one thing I will say, and this is going to make me sound like an AEW shill, but AEW is their theme song game at the minute is on point. I'll say.
Oh my god, Mikey is so good with theme song. I saw him at Revolution, and oh my god, he's been killing it.
And then to wrap this up, favorite superstar or wrestler of all time. I think I have an inkling on who it's going to be.
Obviously, it's Randy Orton.
Fair enough. And as we look at wrapping this up, Samara, the question I end all my interviews on is with YouTube, with podcasting, with social media in general. We're all sort of going to live forever in some sort of weird and strange way. So what is one video or podcast that you're like, don't go back and watch that? I've grown a lot since then. And then what is one that you're like, if the good people want to know my body of work, go check that out?
Oh my God. Okay. I think one of the videos would have to be one of my earlier days when I was working with Wrestling News Co. in 2018. Like any of those probably videos from 2018. Yeah, I think any of them, honestly, because oh my God, I don't check them out. But if you really want to see my work for something that's really good, or well, I think might be good, I always say the recent stuff is good, but because you always think, oh, the recent ones that you've done, but I would say definitely like Will Ospreay or the one I did with Karam Kadam, like any of the recent stuff. Usually, that's my favorite.
Fair enough. And as we wrap this up, where can the good people find you and your content?
So the easiest way to find me is through Linktree. So you'll do link and then tr.ee/the it's Samira. And there you could find like my YouTube channel, my Twitter, my Instagram, like all the social media and everything that I'm doing.
It's well worth doing, guys. So if you guys like this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow bodyslam.net and the Wrestle Watch podcast on Twitter to get updates and to vote for matches for my show with Cassidy Haynes, the Wrestle Watch podcast, and subscribe to bodyslam.net on YouTube to watch the Wrestle Watch podcast and wherever you get your podcasts. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.